It started with a video. Shocking, brutal, and in my eyes, an obscenity. As a veterinary physiotherapist, I knew what I was seeing wasn't just harsh, it was unacceptable. So I recorded my reaction, and like so many in the equestrian world, I waited to see what would happen next. The public outcry was fierce. The governing body had to respond. But was it enough? Now, in this podcast series, I break down the scandal, the reactions, and the resolutions that followed, tracing the journey from Olympic glory to the moment everything unravelled. This is Charlotte Dujardin, the scandal, the backlash, the consequences. I'm Caroline Lindsay, horsesaddlerider.com. In this episode, originally broadcast on YouTube on the first day of the Olympics, I review the condemnation from Charlotte Dujardin's peers and the conspiracy theories as the focus shifts to the whistleblower and speculation about the FEI outcome begins. Huge thanks to those who viewed and contributed to my last video on this topic. In this session, I wanted to review some of the updates in the news. And also, today is the first day of the dressage at the Olympics, the pure dressage. And I will be reviewing a test or two, perhaps see what needs to change. And I'll be analysing the movement and also making comparisons with the dressage that we've seen in the eventing event. So first we'll take a look at the International Dressage Riders Association and their condemnation. It's good to hear from her peers on this topic. And they say the board members of the IDRC universally condemn the actions of Charlotte Dujardin as seen in the video footage which was made public this morning. They are resolute that equine welfare must always be placed uppermost and at all times. They promote only ethical training methods and practices and strive to encourage all their members to abide by the International Equestrian Federation Code of Conduct for the welfare of the horse, together with all FEI regulations which support and protect equine welfare standards, both in and out of the competition. The board supports the actions taken by the FEI, the British Equestrian Federation, and British Dressage to provisionally suspend Miss Dujardin. It notes that Miss Dujardin has stated that she has no excuse for her actions and has also expressed her shame and regret. Due to the live and ongoing investigations, the board will not make any further official announcements on this matter until the investigations are concluded. So this is interesting. It's as if the message they want to get across is that there is no excuse for this behaviour. And this announcement is important because this group of competitive dressage riders is being widely targeted at the moment as using equally obscene training methods. And as I go down the list, I can see that one of those board members was using a very harsh postural training method a couple of decades ago. So let's hope that rider has seen that there is no excuse for using that training method. From horsesport.com, YouTuber outed as Dujardin whistleblower is a trainer herself. Alicia Dickinson has denied being the actual leak, but was present at the session. Conspiracy theories about the timing of the leaked Charlotte Dujardin video have abounded since Monday. Yes, they have. Even the mainstream media have suggested the Dutch were behind it as revenge for Britain displacing them on the podium since 2012. Well, I think that's a
detraction from what we should be considering here, and that's sport horse abuse with training methods. The truth appears closer to home. The whistleblower has been widely named on social media and this morning's British newspaper, The Sun, as the facilitator of the session where Dujardin struck a horse repeatedly with a lunge whip, and that Alicia Dickinson, formerly Filemich, who settled in the UK a few years ago and befriended Dujardin, sending her clients. Yeah. She has denied being the whistleblower to The Sun, but her lawyer confirmed Dickinson was present. Only 2 other people were present, it is understood. The then 19-year-old rider and her mother, who filmed the session. So we've got Alicia Dickinson and 2 others. But does that mean 3? Because Charlotte was there as well. And now this states that it's the girl's mother who filmed the session. So in my earlier video, I understood that the rider was 15 years of age, but she wasn't. She was then 19-year-old. So not quite a minor, but still a vulnerable person. Vulnerable people don't have to be a certain age, because in one situation or another, we can all be vulnerable depending on the circumstances. So as a coach, you need to, any sports coach, you need to treat all of your athletes as vulnerable. Stephen Wensing, who is the whistleblower's lawyer but has not confirmed whether Dickinson and the whistleblower are one and the same, the plot thickens, has previously explained the delay in reporting the abuse to feeling it must be okay if an Olympic champion was doing it and being pressured not to act. Okay, so he's saying that the whistleblower was naive, and now that they've had time to process the situation, they conclude that it wasn't okay. He says that as the Olympics grew closer, the whistleblower increasingly felt Dujardin should not be feted or allowed to win more medals. Yeah, she drew confidence from recent action taken against other high-profile equestrians for alleged horse abuse. Yeah, now there wasn't just one who was disciplined for breaking the rules. I understand there was another, and now number 3. So that it was looking rather like if you complained, you had a safe space to do so because others who had complained were being heard and action was being taken. Such a stance would be hard to square with the confidence 40-year-old Dickinson exudes on her numerous YouTube training videos and in the motivational writings on her website. She has long experience in interacting with industry professionals on both sides of the globe. As well as teaching and buying and selling, she imported sport horses from Europe to Victoria. There is also a history of standing up for herself in Australia in litigation from a disgruntled client, according to publicly available court records. Whether or not she's the person represented by Wensing, if present at the training session, she could have intervened at that time. Yeah, she could. She actually could, because she wasn't riding the horse. She wasn't holding the camera. She was a bystander. So, yeah, why didn't she stop it? Interestingly, she has stated on Instagram that she ended her business relationship with Dujardin after that lesson without giving a reason. Okay. Those naming Dickinson on social media include industry professionals in Australia and the Van Alsts, backers of world champion Charlotte Frey, who would have been one of Dujardin's teammates this week in Paris, but for Monday's bombshell. A connection of Dujardin posted a video allegedly of Dickinson herself giving a lesson by apparent way of riposte. It was swiftly removed by the original poster when it emerged the instructor was not Dickinson, but is still in circulation. Now, I did wonder why a lawyer was involved in this situation. And it says here, Wensing was hired to maintain the whistleblower's anonymity. Not surprisingly, he has not responded to requests for comment on Dickinson from horsesport.com. Many comments on social media are conflating some very complex issues over the timing of the leak and the actuality of what the video exposes. And they say, let us not forget that it is Dujardin who is the offender. And it is she who was always going to damage the sport whenever the video finally emerged. So yes, these bystanders are not telling Charlotte Dujardin to admonish that horse for not responding in the way that was desired. Let's leave that story to come out in due course. However, while the whistleblower did the right thing, in my view, they should have done the right thing much sooner. Yes and no. Dujardin has since been able to win other accolades, yes, sell horses, and maybe misuse a whip again behind closed doors. A ban from competing 18 months ago would have received a lot of attention, but not the saturation coverage of an Olympic Games. So, yeah, with whistleblowing, of which I am one in another situation, you can't speak up straight away. Usually, you have to pick your moments for optimal effect because you know that you're going to cause a lot of trouble for the offender, abuser, and your first response is, as a normal human, I don't want to hurt anybody, but what can I do to put this situation right, to make sure it doesn't happen again? And maybe they did try to complain initially, and maybe that was dismissed. We don't know. The CEO of British Dressage, Jason Broughtigam, wrote to members yesterday to condemn Dujardin, but also to say the timing was aimed at causing maximum damage and that the whistleblower's aim to save dressage was disingenuous. I'm surprised about that comment from the CEO of British Dressage because I would expect a statement such as, we are alarmed by this, and something like, we are looking at our rules to ensure that they are robust and that we're in a strong position to act if any of our members break the rules. Certainly any attempt to save dressage has backfired. A collective reset about core training principles may save the practice of dressage as a craft. But the shocking headlines will surely accelerate the sport's ejection by the International Olympic Committee. So yes, since the Tokyo Olympics, the big issue there was horse abuse or coercion in the pentathlon event, which has led the Olympic Committee to question whether a horse activity belongs in the pentathlon. Despite FEI President Ingmar de Vos's press briefing yesterday that he was sure equestrian sport was in until at least Brisbane 2032. Well, yes, he probably has been able to forecast for the next two games, but public opinion may intervene, and indeed maybe 2032 may well be the last. The world's media is still hungry for new angles on Dujardin. All the main British newspapers have their top sport writers on Dujardin. Journalists who would normally by now be ensconced at the main Olympic Park interviewing Simone Biles and LeBron James. So, yeah, this incident has been something of a diversion from what they would normally be reporting on from the Olympics. The FEI and also the specialist equestrian press have lost the narrative. Another high-profile Dutch equine lawyer, Luc Schelstrait, has also argued that the delay in reporting the whipping incident could lead to a disciplinary case being dismissed on that technicality, or at best, sanctions reduced. Oh, yes. There is always the option to not confront the issue, but to find a technicality to remove the issue from the agenda. Reporting abuse to the FEI may be done at any time and by any person, but must also be done without delay. So the whistleblower has to abide by the FE rules as well, as we report here. The FE Tribunal has considered historic video to be admissible up to now. Yeah. But the very high-profile team Dujardin is likely to assemble could make convincing legal arguments to the contrary. Okay, then is it that the FEI are the only organisation, as her governing body, to be able to deal with this? No, we have UK prosecution processes, we have the RSPCA, we've got it covered. The big picture is FEI are not above the law. However, a sporting ban from a regulating body seems academic, yes. Right now, it's hard to see how Dujardin can return to any kind of livelihood in equestrianism. And that's how it should be. Just reading a couple of comments beneath that horse sport article. Let me just see who wrote that. Pippa Cookson. So the comments. Dickinson was bankrupted by the Australian courts for a dodgy horse deal. Also known for unethical riding and horse welfare. She's not at all popular here, and the pair of them are as bad as each other. But I bet Dickinson hasn't really thought it through that she would not be able to stay anonymous. She's just scuppered her career as well. Now, we know that Alicia Dickinson has been confirmed to not be the whistleblower, but yeah, this is why whistleblowers have to wait, because they usually have something to lose as well. And that was a consideration in my whistleblowing. Heather Moffat, a big name in classical dressage, ethical classical dressage. The reason is now obvious. Dickinson fell out with Charlotte after that lesson, and it won't have been over Charlotte's treatment of the horse, as Alicia Dickinson is far from a paragon of equestrian virtue herself. So we don't know what the falling out was about, but revenge is a dish best served cold. Yeah, whistleblowing, it always looks like revenge, but the whistleblower is standing up for what is right. And the outcome of that situation may be vengeful, but this is almost right versus wrong, hence the wait of 2 years. Knowing the next Olympics were 2024. Well, I don't think as a whistleblower myself, I don't think you look that far into the future. I know that you consider that you just don't have that much control in the situation, and that a lot of the time you feel overwhelmed. But the motivation for whistleblowing is, I don't want this happening to others. And Dujardin was almost certainly going to be on the GB team, timing to perfection for maximum effect. Well, no, because the horse could have been withdrawn at any time. Dujardin may have decided to have another baby. So I don't think you think that far ahead. You just think, what is going to happen now that I've made a stand to speak up for what is right? I'm surprised that no one yet has mentioned the laughter in the video as it was filmed. Well, I have. They obviously didn't think it was too serious at that time. Well, I've tried to be magnanimous about the laughter and say that could have been nervous laughter. But what if, assuming the whistleblower is the one who filmed the incident, what if you feel relieved that you now have evidence it's too repulsive to think that people could be laughing at the horse being beaten. And another comment I did on Facebook and got blasted. Yes. Because there are people who are great supporters and fans of Charlotte Dujardin. And I would say that the fans' reaction, it wouldn't be unusual for them to be in denial. But that's another aspect of this. Something about the grammar. Don't need to read that. And finally, no, not finally, there's another comment after this one. Choosing to release abuse information until it receives the maximum press and does the maximum harm does not demonstrate a proactive effort to protect horse welfare. Well, what about whistleblower welfare? And you do want maximum attention because you know the reaction from others is to deny or ignore that it happened. Except in this instance, there's evidence and Charlotte has owned up to being the individual using the whip. It does demonstrate an active attempt to do the most damage to the individual involved. I don't think it's that personal. I don't think so. You want to be heard by the organisations in power and you want them to do something. The individual affected is a bystander in that. Although there is no justification for what we see in the video, hearing the laughter makes one wonder what level of pressure was placed on the accused to solve the problem. Yeah, now I accept everyone's viewpoints on this situation. What was the motivations behind this session? Why did Charlotte feel so comfortable about beating a horse in front of others? Was it premeditated so that my horse won't do this, therefore can you do that? For a very long time, methods have been used across the disciplines of equestrianism to elicit the best performance from competition horses. To make Charlotte Dujardin a scapegoat for those practices is wrong. Elicit the best performances. So this person is saying, yeah, it's acceptable to coerce the horse. It's acceptable to cause the horse pain, to punish the horse, to help them develop as a sport horse. Well, no, in other sports, coaches do not beat their athletes to perform. It's very much a two-way relationship, and you don't get the best from your athletes if they are trained in fear. Okay, excessive use of the whip is cruel, but in this instance, she was using it to motivate the animal to move forward. No, you don't have to do that to motivate the animal to move forwards. And if you have to beat an animal to move forwards, you are expecting them to perform when in fact they're incapable of it for whatever reason. As you can see from the video, the horse did not react in a negative way. Oh yeah, because was it closed down? Or was it not expecting to have any control in that situation? As in the well-documented learned helplessness syndrome? And there was plenty of laughter caught on the video as well. This is a spiteful attempt to sully the name of Charlotte, who 99% of the time, 99, is an exemplary role model. She was exemplary. We used to look up to Charlotte as an ambassador for ethical, pure dressage sportsmanship. And now there is a big doubt about that. But no, there is no place for abusing any animal, especially in the name of sport and human enjoyment. And in response to that, the horse did react initially, but this is a well-trained horse that perhaps has been coerced into movements in the past. Yeah, very interesting comment. The horse was pressed into the wall and is confined by the rider and the trainer. Yeah, the horse could not get away. It was an indoor school, and no matter what that horse did, the horse continued to be struck punished, coerced, whatever you see here. That was why many of us found the video so distressing. Yes, the horse has to submit and cannot escape. Yes, in learned helplessness studies, the animal is hurt and cannot escape. So therefore, it gives up trying. It submits to the pain. Another comment in response to that, fully agree, this has become a witch hunt right now. Not from my point of view. Do not forget that the public cheered her up for many years and they all keen to destroy her and her family now. No, they're outraged at what she's done. They're outraged at being let down. They're outraged at what happened to that horse. They're outraged that she apparently looks like a fraud now, that she won those medals not in the spirit of the Olympic Games, which is fairness for all competitors. Please do not forget that she's a human being. She has a family and a little child. This situation, this incident, it wasn't even about punishment. It was about, I insist you do something and I'm going to beat you until you guess what it is. So, yeah. And I've had a backlash for suggesting that her parenting skills should be monitored. But until we know the full extent of this, or perhaps it's not for us to know, but I and many others can't help but have concern for those around her. Think of what happened with Caroline Flack. Well, yes, so it's up to those around Charlotte Dujardin, including her governing body, perhaps, although they are only there to ensure that their standards are upheld. But it's up to her family to look after her, not us. We've all seen just 1 minute of that training session. We don't know what has happened before. None of us has any idea of the situation as a whole. For sure, we don't. Was the whistleblower's interest the welfare of the horse? We don't know. No, somebody wanted to do the biggest possible damage to a rider's career and future life. No, Charlotte did the biggest possible damage to her career. She did it, and she should have known better. Please think of the mental damage of that lady. Well, I think because of social media, yes, mental damage can be inflicted very quickly and very widely, but that comes with the territory of being a celebrity. By the way, I'm not British, I'm German. What difference does that make? So, yeah, this situation has divided equestrians. Those who say the whistleblower was right to do what they did, and those who say she wasn't, and those who say that the whistleblower was vindictive. Well, let's focus on the vulnerable one here, the horse, and the person, the young person who was riding that horse at the time. Because if it were me, I don't think I would ever get over that. I would be traumatized by it for a very long time. And whilst we on the spot want to dismount the horse, grab the whip, and do the same harm to the abuser, you're in so much shock. It's almost as if you yourself are personally being abused. Unless you've rehearsed what you would really say in that situation, shock would be your first reaction. And then you'd want to get away from the scene. That's just primal. Attacking the abuser won't guarantee to stop them abusing. They need to be stopped from a force organisation that has the power to coerce them to toe the line.
If you found this episode thought-provoking, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, leave a review. It really helps more equestrians and horse lovers find the podcast. You can also join the conversation on the Horse Saddle Rider YouTube channel. And finally, I'll be giving you more insights into the equestrian world. So be sure to come back and join me so that together we can campaign for better conditions for our sport horses.